And a lot of these jobs are not poorly paid.
Robert, I'm going to go to another question. It's on the same topic. It's from Barkat Rabbi.
Thanks, Tony. I'll give you a little bit of a background before fewer than 700 agricultural graduates are expected to graduate this year across the nation. This is a huge shortfall given the 4,000 agricultural-related tertiary level jobs available each year. This question is for all the panel members. What's the best way to tackle the dwindling enrollment in agricultural degrees and encourage young Australians to reconnect to the land and agriculture again?
Fiona Nash, we'll start with you. Those figures are quite frightening. Fewer than 700 agricultural graduates across the whole country this year for 4,000 jobs.
That's something we've been looking at for quite a while, and they are both really good questions. And if I can just very quickly reflect on the first question, I've got two boys, Will's 22, Henry's 20, they're both coming home to the farm. And when I tell people that, they say, really? It is really unusual, and that has changed so much. What we used to do and expect the next generation to just come onto the farm, now that's being seen as something really unusual, and that's something that we have to really focus on, not just as government, but as community as well, for the social fabric of the nation. But this issue of the graduates, and you're dead right, is about 700 for about the 4,000 places. I think one of the things there's two things we need to do. One is, of course, address the issue of profitability. If there's no profit in farming, you're not going to get people encouraged to actually go into farming. We need to get over the barriers to entry. One of which is, and I'll disagree with something Robin said earlier about the foreign investment only buying up big parcels. I'm actually seeing them putting together big parcels but with a lot of smaller purchases, and what that's doing is often putting our local young people out of the market, and that's a real issue. But one of the biggest things I think we need to do is actually change the perception of farming and change the perception of agriculture. So often we see out in the media, it's the doom and gloom and the droughts and the fires and the floods and the pestilence, and that's absolutely right that we focus on that, but we've got to start talking about the positive nature of agriculture, the fantastic thing that our farmers and rural people are doing in rural Australia. We've got to start talking about how brilliant it is to live out in the bush, how great it is to be a farmer in spite of all the difficulties, and really start giving people a positive view about how good it is to be a rural Australian.
Troy. Two questions really are about barriers to access to young people, and I'm thinking, what about for Indigenous young people? I mean, there's been some great hope out on some farms run by Indigenous people, some cattle farms and others, but should there be more?
Rob, you would have had some Indigenous ringers working up your way, and you would have gotten to know them as amazing horsemen. They know bush skills, they know things that a lot of young ringers who come out there from town don't know, and they've actually educated a lot of people on how to manage land in North Queensland. There's a thing up there in North Queensland where young Indigenous people, if they offend, they've got a choice. Either go to day, release or whatever they call it, or they go into this thing called Outstation North where they learn ringers' skills, how to fence, how to ride horses. Some of them have never been on a horse before in their life. But I have to say, it's great to think positive, but it's a geographical problem as well. Because if you've come from fourth generation of drought and you've just been on the back foot for your whole career, watching your grandfather and your father go through these things every year, it'd be very hard to look at that as an option when your father sits you down and says, listen, do you want the farm? Because odds on the kids are going to go, look, I just don't think I can do that. You talk to Beyond Blue and the statistics of suicide in our communities in the rural sector, the amount of young fathers that leave a bloody house and don't come home. I mean, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more depth to these geographical things. You can't just say, look, it'd be great to just make everyone interested in farming. You've got to look at every facet of our